Hi, my name is Darrell Rader. I'm the president and CEO of Minaurum Gold. We are listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture Exchange at MGG, and in the US on the OTCQX at MMRGF. Before I begin, I'd just like to highlight our forward-looking statements. I'll be making a number of forward-looking statements today that involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors which may cause our actual results to differ materially. Please do your due diligence prior to investing. For those of you that don't know who we have a track record of large mineral discoveries. Our team includes individuals such as Dr. Peter McGaw of Mag Silver fame, David Jones of Guerrero Gold Belt fame, who altogether discovered over 300 million ounces of silver and 16 million ounces of gold in Mexico over their careers. In Minaurum, we came together for the first time as a team to make a new discovery from the grassroots stage. We put together a portfolio of district scale projects and then drilled them aggressively with the intention of making a new discovery. We're not looking for leftover unmined mineralization. We're not looking to recycle projects. We're looking for new discoveries, the tenure of which the majors are looking to acquire. So when we put Minaurum together in 2010, we put a number of projects into the company and we started drilling them aggressively. Since our inception, we drilled 7 projects. We made 3 early stage discoveries, dropped the other 4 projects, and have since replenished the pipeline. Through that discovery process, we discovered the high-grade Alamos silver project, which I'll be discussing today. The other key thing to note on this slide is we're well capitalized and have a strong capital structure and a strong group of institutional shareholders. As part of the team, my background is I was the corporate development manager for Impact Silver in Mexico, so I had a lot of experience as Impact went from an explorer into a profitable silver producer in Mexico. I also founded Defiant Silver, which is an advanced silver explorer in Mexico. On the share performance and cap slide here, the key thing to note is our close correlation to the underlying price of silver. We trade lockstep with the price of silver, and we continue to expect that'll occur as we continue to focus 90% of our time and money on the Alamos silver project. The other thing to note here is we have analyst coverage, over $10 million in the bank, and no debt on the books. As I mentioned, we are diversified silver and gold explorer. We have a portfolio of projects. Our current focus is on the Alamos project in northern Mexico, but we also are amongst the largest landholders, completely surrounded by majors and mid-tier miners in the Guerrero Gold Belt. And we have a dominating land position in the Oaxaca region, especially at Santa Marta, which is a VMS gold copper project, and Taviche, which is a silver district directly adjacent to Fortuna's San Jose mine. So our next discovery, Alamos. How Alamos came about was we were approached a number of years by a Mexican family that's very prolific on the infrastructure side in northern Mexico. And they had this project, and it took them about 6 to 7 years and $2 million US to consolidate. Before they got involved here, this was a historic district. As you can see already, it was known worldwide in 1808 when Alexander von Humboldt visited the region. This was a significant historical producer that had never been consolidated. And it took this family, as I mentioned, 7 years to consolidate. This is the same family that consolidated Santa Elena mine, which became Silvercrest #1 and was ultimately acquired by First Majestic. We are in an area of great infrastructure. We border Piedras Verdes, which is owned by the Salinas Price family. It is one of Mexico's largest open pit mines. It's a copper silver mine. Due to our relationship with this family that had put together Santa Elena, this is the same family that's doing the portal construction, mine shaft work, permitting and community relations at Las Chispas for Silvercrest #2. They're doing all the same work on the ground, permitting, community relations, and drilling for us at Alamos. We have long-term community agreements in place and have a great relationship with the ejidos located in the vicinity of our project. So just this slide sort of highlights what we've accomplished year over year since our last time we presented at Beaver Creek in 2019. So in 2019, we were all entirely focused on basically proving that the Alamos Silver District was not limited to some historical mines, but it was indeed a district, and there were a lot of veins in the camp to be discovered. Once we discovered these veins, the plan was to drill 1 to 3 holes into these veins. We know these veins are shooty, and we wanted to prove that these new veins had the potential to host high-grade mineralization. We ignored the historical mines, focusing on new discoveries, and we wanted to build an inventory of high-grade veins that we could then drill off in phase 2. So what have we accomplished over the last year? We basically went in, we discovered 28 veins, we drilled 19 of them, 14 of them returned high-grade drill results. We ended up also raising $9.2 million from groups such as Sprott Asset Management and Eric Sprott to fund a phase 2 program that we commenced about a month and a half ago, and which is focused on quantifying the discoveries we made in phase 1. In addition, early this year, we acquired a historical database. And this historical database, I'll get into a little bit here, but this basically shows that the historical mines are in fact not mined out, but host a considerable amount of leftover mineralization, but more importantly to us, they continue at depth below the old mined out areas. So this is what leads us into just scratching the surface of a historical district. First of all, we know this district produced over 200 million ounces of silver. You can see the breakdown here between the 3 mines. We acquired historical data from the Promontorio and Minas Nuevas mines, but all the historical data mentioned all 3 historical mines, and it proved that all of them ended in mineralization. What that looks like, you'll see here. This is Promontorio, the 2nd largest historical producer. Bear in mind, at most, we did about 3 holes into this area at the beginning of our drilling in 2017 to get an idea of what the mineralization looked like that was historically mined. Now, as of this year, we acquired this database, which shows, as you can see here, drilling that occurred both in leftover mineralization, and you can see they left a lot behind, things such as 4.6 meters of 2,800 grams per ton silver, almost 13 meters of 1,100 grams silver, but more importantly, below the historic workings, they left behind things such as 12 meters of 700 grams and 3.7 meters of 800 grams. It is our plan now to incorporate this in our drill program in phase 2. As I mentioned, in phase 1, we pretty well just exclusively focused on new discoveries. And now in phase 2, we have a drill turning at Promontorio. We have a drill turning at our new virgin discovery we made a couple of years ago, and we're now starting to quantify what is there. Key notes here is this Promontorio has a strike length of 700 meters. It was mined down to about the 230 meter level. Neighboring it about 500 meters north is the Quintera mine that did about 100 million ounces of production and was mined down to a depth exceeding 500 meters. So there is some significant depth potential at Promontorio that we're currently testing. This is just a historic image here on the left that we cleaned up on the right. Key thing to note here is our holes that we drilled back in 2017, hole 4 and 5, they hit, now that we have the underground maps, we can see they hit leftover mineralization, and the key thing is there was a lot left behind. But more importantly, this also shows you the tenure of mineralization in that they mined 10 meters of mineralization and then left another 20 meters behind that, if you do a silver equivalent calculation, averages about 700 grams silver equivalent over 20 meters. So these were big, wide, heavily mineralized systems of which we know there was a lot left behind, both in the areas they mined and below the areas they mined. Minas Nuevas was the smallest historical producer. The reason we're quite excited about this is we believe that based on our work in the area and the historical data, we believe that Minas Nuevas represents potentially the top of a much larger buried epithermal vein system. Topographically, here at Minas Nuevas, you can see the picture of the late 1800s. They're mining at a level topographically that is almost 350 meters higher up than where the Quintera or Promontorio mines started. And they only got down to about a depth of 150 meters, and the drilling below that shows continued mineralization at depth. What we believe we're potentially seeing here is the top of a vein that's horsetaling in multiple strands, and as you drill deeper, we believe there's significant potential that these strands coalesce into one stronger system. That is something we'll be drilling here later on in phase 2. So just to basically recap our phase 1 program, we came into this system, we knew there were 3 historical mines, and that's it. We went in, started looking for new veins that had never been mined. We discovered about 28 of them. Why weren't they mined? We pretty quickly determined that using the Buchanan model here, that you were looking at a number of veins that were exposed at different levels on surface. The historic areas were exposed deep down in the boiling zone. So when the Spaniards came here, they found high-grade silver on surface. And they right away built mines and mined it. And that's what we see in the historical mines. In a number of the neighboring veins, they are exposed really high up on surface. So what you see is the uppermost levels of buried systems where they're spotty. You see little pockets of high grade, but you don't really see cohesive veins. Now, early on in our 2017 program, we proved this model correct by drilling our discovery hole. The key thing to note here is we hit the Nueva Europa vein, we hit the Europa-Guadalupe vein, and we hit a number of blind veins. On surface, the Nueva Europa vein was 50 centimeters wide, grading 70 grams per ton silver. At a depth of 100 meters, it was a nice strong vein grading 1.2 meters of 500 grams. We then hit a bunch of blind veins, which we believe are veins that are so buried, their tops never even made it to surface. The highest grade one we hit was a meter of 218. Then we got into Europa-Guadalupe, where on surface it's a zone of veinlets 1.5 meters wide, grading 130. At 300 meters depth vertically, it's 8.2 meters of 1,700 grams silver, along with a very healthy abundance of base metals. This proved our model. We are currently, as I said, we have a rig mobilized at Europa-Guadalupe, and we're starting to drill off and quantify what we discovered there. This slide basically shows you where we started, what I just described, with the 3 mines having produced 200 million ounces, to where we are today, where we have over 28 veins discovered, and we're still discovering veins. I think our most recent one was just a couple of months ago here before COVID struck. Key thing to note here is this box that you see outlined in green totals 5,000 hectares of our 37,000 hectare claim block. This is truly a silver district, and we're just scratching the surface here. As I mentioned, Piedras Verdes is our neighbor to the north here. Just to quantify the size, potential, and the size of what we're exploring here. For example, Silvercrest and Las Chispas, their entire district, had historical production of between 40 to 50 million ounces, and it totals about 13 to 1,400 hectares in size. This little block here is 5,000 hectares. So we have a very robust vein system, and we believe we'll be making discoveries for a number of years to come here. Our phase 1 drill results are really a hodgepodge of results scattered over a very wide breadth of an area. What we did is basically, as soon as we hit and proved a vein hosted high grade, we moved on to the next one. So you can see here, Europa-Guadalupe, we've only drilled 1 hole into the system. That's changing now as we speak, and we'll report it on in a couple of weeks. But these results, Europa-Guadalupe is about a couple kilometers west of Promontorio, San Jose, where we believe we drilled into what could be the beginning of a silver shoot, 10 meters of 200 grams. That is another 1.5 kilometers to the west. Then heading east from Promontorio, we have things like Ana, which was 2.8 meters of very high-grade base metals. Alessandra, which is another couple kilometers to the east. This is a big area that we're just starting to reveal now as we drill. So COVID, obviously restarting in Mexico, we've had to adapt to the situation in Mexico. What we've done is basically a miniaturized version of what our team's done at Las Chispas for Silvercrest. So we do the proper throat swab tests for everybody that comes into the project. We built a separate camp to keep our team away from the local communities, and this constant testing has ensured that our project remains COVID-free. In addition, to help the local communities, especially before we started operating, we basically have been acting as a local food bank. You can see some of the pictures there, and we've been supplying local ejidos with food and a quantity of staples and hand sanitizers and hygiene supplies. We're also doing this at our Santa Marta project for the local community, where we are doing drill permitting as we speak. So our phase 2, as I mentioned, is focused on quantifying what we found in phase 1. We are now drilling at Europa-Guadalupe. Since the end of July, our production is averaging about 4 to 5 holes a month. This is up from 2 holes per month in phase 1. We ultimately anticipate this probably getting to the 4 to 6 hole range prior to adding an additional rig. We do plan to add a rig once we can logistically operate with a third rig. COVID has been restricting our ability to add additional rigs, but we believe now that we're on top of this as far as testing, as far as having a clinic on site actively ensuring the safety of the locals, we will be adding a third rig at some point here, probably in the next couple of months. Also, as mentioned, we are focused on stepping out of our Europa-Guadalupe discovery and stepping out at Promontorio and following up on some of the historic drill results that we acquired earlier this year. This basically shows you our plan of where we're testing right now. We have a rig testing both targets 1 and 3 as we speak. We have a second rig at target 2. As we drill these targets, if one of them doesn't measure up, the idea is to move the rig onto, say, San Jose or Minas Nuevas. At this point, it looks more like we will actually add a third rig at some point, and that third rig would go on to San Jose or Minas Nuevas and start expanding on the discoveries we've made there. So what we're looking for as investors, we have minimum 20,000 meter phase 1 program. The drill results will start flowing here pretty shortly. They'll be released on a target by target basis. So probably Europa-Guadalupe first, followed by a news release at Promontorio. And that just gives investors the ability to keep up with developments on a target by target basis. Once the rainy season stops here at the end of September, we're going to restart surface generative work outside of the 5,000 hectare block here to continue expanding our targets. We'll also probably be doing some underground sampling work to get a better feel of what these silver shoots look like at depth. As you can see as well, we do have an option to acquire 100% of Alamos. We have another 500 in cash and 2 million shares left to be issued over the next 4 years. And in the remainder of the portfolio that I'll touch on just briefly here, we are advancing the Santa Marta VMS district through drill permitting, and we are working on monetizing or spinning out several of our non-core projects. Our appendix here, bear in mind, 90% of our time and money is being targeted on the Alamos project. The other 10% is being used to advance the Santa Marta project, where we control an entire virgin VMS silver district. We've had noted experts such as Dr. James Franklin come down, say that this is their best undrilled VMS they've seen in their career. We've had Dr. David Lowell, who recently passed away, come down, and the first comment he made to our team on the project when he stepped foot on it is, where do we put the head frame? You know, these are individuals that have seen some lot of VMS targets in their career. This seems to be, according to them, one of the best they've seen. It is yet to be drilled. We look forward to drilling it ASAP here as soon as we receive drill permits. The other projects to note are Orifero, which is a recent acquisition of ours. It's only about 25 kilometers, 30 kilometers northwest of Alamos, where we look forward to drilling that probably in the new year, as well as our Tavicha district, which was a distressed asset we acquired. You can see that there on the right. We look forward to starting to advance that here in the very near future. Please follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. We have some great videos online that keep our shareholders updated on what we're doing with Minaurum, as well as having some expert interviews with industry icons about the industry in general and the economy. Thank you for taking the time, and please contact us if you have any follow-up questions.